Have you ever wondered about the severity of domestic violence in a far-off land like Kazakhstan? It's a topic that we rarely touch, but it's one that needs our attention. In the vast steppes of Kazakhstan, tucked away from the global eye, a grim reality lurks. A reality of domestic violence that's as chilling as the Siberian winds that sweep the nation. Let's take a closer look at this issue through the lens of a particularly harrowing case. Saltanat Nukanova, a woman whose life was cut short due to the cruel hands of domestic violence. Her partner, Bishimbaev, a former economy minister, was found guilty of tormenting and murdering her with extreme cruelty. The court sentenced him to 24 long years in a maximum security prison, but this sentence is just a drop in the ocean when compared to the lifetime of pain and suffering Saltanat endured. During the trial, it was revealed that Bishimbaev subjected Saltanat to severe torment before she tragically succumbed to a traumatic brain injury. This isn't just a story of one woman's suffering, it's the story of a society where such atrocities are allowed to happen. It's a story of a system that needs a desperate change. Saltanat Nukanova's story is not an isolated incident. In fact, it's a reflection of the widespread domestic violence that plagues the country. Every year, around 80 women lose their lives to domestic violence in Kazakhstan. An additional 150 women sustain injuries that amount to grievous bodily harm, while more than 4,000 incur light bodily harm. The Prosecutor General's office estimates these figures, but the actual numbers may be even more staggering. Every woman or girl who is beaten or killed at the hands of their partners or within their family deserves justice. And it's high time that Kazakhstan's authorities conduct thorough investigations into every case of family abuse and hold those responsible accountable. Saltanat Nukanova is just one of hundreds of women who suffer violence at the hands of their partners in Kazakhstan each year. This is the grim reality of domestic violence in Kazakhstan, and it's time we shine a light on it. In a recent high-profile case, the former economy minister, Bishimbaev, was found guilty of torment and murder with extreme cruelty. A verdict that has been a long time coming. This case has shaken the nation to its very core. The trial unfolded with a chilling narrative, painting a picture of a horrific tale of torment and cruelty. Bishimbaev stood accused of the murder of his partner, Saltanat Nukanova. The court heard how Bishimbaev had subjected Nukanova to severe torment before her tragic demise from a traumatic brain injury. It was a narrative that was hard to listen to, and even harder to accept. The prosecution presented a compelling case, fortified by a formidable body of evidence. Audio and video material, witness testimonies, and forensic reports were all used to build a damning case against the former economy minister. The court was presented with an irrefutable narrative of Nukanova's torment and subsequent murder. The defense, on the other hand, was left scrambling in the face of such overwhelming evidence. Despite their numerous attempts to refute the prosecution's claims, the evidence was too strong, too compelling. It was a case that was hard to ignore, and even harder to deny. The verdict was delivered on May 13th. Bishimbaev was found guilty of torment and murder with extreme cruelty, a charge that carries a maximum sentence of life imprisonment, but in Bishimbaev's case, the court handed down a sentence of 24 years in a maximum security prison. This verdict, while being a significant step towards justice for Nukanova, is not the end of the road. Bishimbaev has 15 days from the day he formally receives the verdict to lodge an appeal. If his sentence stands, he will not be eligible for parole until the year 2040. While this case has brought to light the horrifying reality of domestic violence in Kazakhstan, it also serves as a grim reminder of the hundreds of women who suffer at the hands of their partners each year. It is a harsh reality that needs to be tackled head-on, and the verdict in Bishimbaev's trial is a step in the right direction. But it is just that, a step. There is still a long road ahead. The trial of Bishimbaev is a story of torment, of cruelty, and of a tragic loss of life. It is a story that has sent shockwaves through the nation, leaving a mark that will not be easily erased. But it is also a story of justice, of a guilty verdict that sends a clear message to those who would dare to inflict such unimaginable harm on others. A tragic loss of life, a horrifying tale of torment, and a guilty verdict that has sent shockwaves through the nation. The story of Bishimbaev's trial is one that will not be forgotten anytime soon. It is a stark reminder of the grim reality of domestic violence in Kazakhstan, and a call to action to ensure that no other woman has to suffer the same fate. The Prosecutor General's office has estimated that about 80 women die annually from domestic violence in Kazakhstan. In this Eurasian nation, the tendrils of domestic violence cast a long and ominous shadow. Each year, the lives of roughly 80 women are abruptly ended, their futures stolen from them by the very hands that should protect them. But the violence doesn't stop at mortality. It's estimated that around 150 women sustain injuries equating to grievous bodily harm from their partners annually. These are not just numbers, these are mothers, daughters, sisters, and friends who have had to endure the unimaginable. Moreover, it's not just about physical harm. More than 4,000 women are reported to incur light bodily harm each year. The scars may not always be visible, but they are there, etched deep within the psyche of the survivors. Domestic violence is a complex issue, deeply rooted in power and control. When it unfolds behind closed doors, it becomes even more challenging to address. But that does not mean it should be ignored. In Kazakhstan, every case of family abuse should be thoroughly investigated. Not a single incident should be overlooked or dismissed. It's not just about seeking justice for the victims, but it's about holding those responsible to account. It's about sending a clear message that violence in any form will not be tolerated. The victims of domestic violence are not mere statistics. They are human beings deserving of respect, dignity, and safety. Their voices, often silenced by fear and intimidation, need to be heard. They need to know that they are not alone, that they are not to blame, and that help is available. In the face of such a grim reality, it becomes abundantly clear that there is a pressing need for change, for stronger laws, better enforcement, and a shift in societal attitudes. Every woman or girl who is beaten or killed at the hands of abusive partners or within the family deserves justice. This is not just a statement, it's a call to action, a call to end the cycle of violence, to provide support for the victims, and to ensure that no woman has to live in fear. In June, a new law criminalizing battery and light bodily harm, dubbed as Kazakhstan's Domestic Violence Law or Sultanat's Law, will come into force. This is a landmark moment in the battle against domestic violence in Kazakhstan. Named in honor of Sultanat Nukanova, whose tragic story we've just explored, Sultanat's Law is a testament to her legacy and a beacon of hope for countless women who are currently suffering in silence. The importance of this law cannot be overstated. It serves as a crucial tool in the fight against domestic violence, a plague that has long been festering in the shadows of Kazakh society. It sets forth clear and unambiguous definitions of what constitutes battery and light bodily harm, thereby providing a legal framework that can be used to bring perpetrators to justice. Moreover, Sultanat's Law sends a powerful message to the victims of domestic violence. It tells them that their suffering is recognized, that their voices matter, and that the state is committed to protecting them. This validation can be a lifeline for those who have been trapped in abusive relationships, often feeling unheard, unimportant, and helpless. But the introduction of Sultanat's Law is just the beginning. The law's effectiveness hinges on its enforcement. It's not enough to merely have rules in place, they must be actively enforced to ensure that victims are protected and that abusers are held accountable for their actions. This means that the law enforcement agencies and the judiciary must be adequately trained to handle cases of domestic violence sensitively and effectively. Furthermore, Sultanat's Law must be complemented by comprehensive support services for victims of domestic violence. This includes shelters for those who need immediate protection, counseling services to help victims recover from their trauma, and financial assistance for those who are economically dependent on their abusers. It's also crucial to address the societal norms and attitudes that perpetuate domestic violence. Education and awareness campaigns can play a pivotal role in challenging the deeply ingrained beliefs that condone violence against women. They can also help to dispel the stigma associated with being a victim of domestic violence, empowering more women to come forward and seek help. While Sultanat's Law is a significant step forward, it's important to remember that laws alone cannot eradicate domestic violence. It requires a multifaceted approach that addresses the root causes of violence, provides support for victims, and ensures that abusers are held accountable. The tragic case of Sultanat Nukanova serves as a stark reminder of the urgent need for action. Her story is a testament to the devastating consequences of domestic violence, and the law named in her honor is a beacon of hope for a future where no woman has to suffer in silence. The effective enforcement of Sultanat's Law is crucial to ensuring other women in Kazakhstan do not suffer the same fate. We must all take a stand against domestic violence and work towards a world where everyone can live free from fear and harm. During the trial, the defense made many statements blaming Nukanova for the violence she suffered. A chilling statement that unravels a deeply entrenched problem in Kazakhstan: victim blaming. It's an unsettling trend that not only perpetuates the cycle of abuse but also further traumatizes the victim. Victim blaming, in essence, is the act of holding the victim partially or entirely responsible for the harm they've suffered. In the context of domestic violence, it often manifests in questions and accusations that imply the victim could have or should have done something to prevent the violence inflicted upon them. This harmful practice is not exclusive to Kazakhstan, but it is particularly pervasive here, influencing how domestic violence cases are handled. It rears its ugly head in courtrooms where defense attorneys, in their bid to absolve their clients, resort to blaming the victims subtly or overtly. This not only distorts the narrative, but also deters other victims from seeking justice, for fear of being blamed and publicly humiliated. What's more, this culture of victim blaming often extends beyond the courtroom, seeping into the societal fabric. It's perpetuated by societal norms that tend to excuse or downplay violence, especially when it occurs within the confines of a home or between intimate partners. This societal attitude can further isolate victims, making it even harder for them to break free from the cycle of abuse. The tragic case of Sultanat Nukanova underscores the urgent need to address this issue. Her death and the subsequent trial of her partner, Bishimbaev, have brought the issue of victim blaming into sharp focus. But bringing attention to the issue is only the first step. It's time for Kazakhstan's authorities to take concrete action. They need to ensure that investigations and prosecutions of domestic violence cases are carried out with utmost sensitivity, respect, and fairness, without any room for victim blaming. The horrific killing of Nukanova and the spectacle of Bishimbaev's trial should prompt the authorities to prevent investigations and prosecutions of domestic violence cases from becoming spaces for victim blaming and re-victimization. The change is overdue, but it's never too late to start. While Kazakhstan has yet to heed the calls of women's rights activists to make domestic violence a discrete criminal offense, there is a glimmer of hope. This spark of optimism emanates from the recent changes to laws, which, if fully implemented, offer a way for Kazakh officials to meaningfully tackle the scourge of domestic violence. To begin with, the introduction of Sultanat's law is a significant stride forward. Named after the tragically murdered Sultanat Nukanova, this legislation criminalizes battery and light bodily harm. This law serves as a beacon of hope for women across Kazakhstan who for far too long have been suffering in silence. It's a promising starting point, but for it to be truly impactful, it needs to be effectively enforced. Moreover, the law enforcement and justice systems need to undergo a transformative shift in their approach. They must ensure that the investigations into cases of domestic violence are thorough, fair, and free from prejudice. The tragic spectacle of Bishimbaev's trial, where the victim was blamed for her own torment, should serve as a stark reminder of the need for this change. But laws and their enforcement are just one part of the puzzle. A comprehensive approach to tackling domestic violence must also involve education and awareness. Society at large needs to be educated about the grim reality of domestic violence, its severe consequences, and the urgent need for its eradication. This knowledge can then foster a culture of zero tolerance towards such heinous acts, both within families and in the wider community. Support systems play a crucial role too. Establishing safe spaces for victims, providing them with necessary psychological and legal support, and empowering them to break free from the cycle of violence should be integral to any strategy aimed at combating domestic violence. Moreover, it's high time that the voices of women's rights activists are heard and heeded. Their tireless work in advocating for the rights of women and their calls for domestic violence to be recognized as a discrete criminal offense need to be acknowledged and acted upon. Lastly, it's essential to remember that change, although necessary, can be slow. It requires persistence, patience, and unwavering commitment. It's a journey that Kazakhstan must embark on, for the sake of its women, its families, and its future. This is the way forward. It's a path that leads towards a society where women live free from the fear of violence, where they are treated with the respect and dignity they deserve. It's a journey towards justice, equality, and peace. It's a journey worth undertaking. With full implementation of these changes to laws, Kazakhstan can meaningfully tackle the scourge of domestic violence and take action to save the lives of Kazakh women.